So, have you ever wondered what it actually takes to land a job at a big bank? It almost always kicks off with something like this: a single piece of paper. A written test that's designed to weed out thousands of people, leaving just a select few. Today, we're going to crack the code on one of these. We're going to deconstruct a real job test from a major bank in Bangladesh to figure out what skills they're really looking for. And this single page, this is the gateway. Seriously, for thousands and thousands of aspiring bankers, this 1 hour exam is the very first and, often the toughest hurdle they've got to clear. The pressure is just immense because every single question on here is designed with a very specific purpose. It's not just a test, right? It's more like an audition on paper. All right, so how do we actually crack this thing? Well, we're going to break the exam down into its key parts. We'll look at the general knowledge, we'll dive into the math, check out the language test, and then we'll put it all together to see what it tells us about the kind of person the bank is really looking for. Okay, first up, let's talk about the gateway exam itself. It's so important to get this. A test like this is not just a pop quiz. Nope. It's a really sophisticated filter, basically engineered to pinpoint the exact traits and skills that the bank cares about most. And let's just talk about the raw pressure here. This test is for a trainee field assistant position at Islami Bank. We're talking one of the biggest banks in the country. Now, you get exactly 60 minutes to answer questions worth 100 marks. Do the math. That's less than a minute per question. I mean, every single second counts. You hesitate, you're done. So, keeping that intense pressure in mind, let's dive into the first section, general knowledge. Now, you might think, oh, this is just random trivia, right? But it's not. It's actually a pretty subtle test of how connected a candidate is to their country and, its core values. Take a look at this question, for example. This is number 6. It asks, in which district was the freedom fighter Bir Sreshto Mustafa Kamal born? Now, for context, Bir Sreshto is the absolute highest military honor in Bangladesh, given for incredible bravery. So yeah, on the surface, it's just a historical fact. But what's it really testing? Well, this reveals something so much deeper than just geography or history. It's a test of cultural literacy. Think about it. A huge national institution like this bank, they need to know that their employees are actually grounded in the country's heritage. They're not just looking for people who work in the nation, they're looking for people who understand the nation they serve. But knowing your country's history is only one piece of the puzzle. You also have to be able to master the numbers. And that brings us to our next section, cracking the math code. Because in banking, this isn't just about crunching numbers. It's about applying logic and being absolutely precise when that clock is ticking down. All right, here's a great example, question 10. It's a classic word problem. It makes you take a story, a narrative, and translate it into a mathematical equation, and then solve it. This is a direct test of your analytical and problem-solving skills. I mean, that's the absolute bedrock of any job in finance. And the key here, it isn't some hidden trick. It's all about having a structured method. You have to define your variables. You have to build a logical equation from the story, and then you solve it. That step-by-step logical way of thinking is exactly what a bank needs when you're dealing with complex financial problems. It's really a test of your process, not just your speed. The answer, by the way, is 18. But getting it right shows so much more than just being good at math. It proves you have the focus, the attention to detail, to avoid those tiny little errors that in a real banking environment could lead to massive, massive problems. Okay, but being precise with numbers is only half the battle. A bank runs on words just as much as it runs on numbers. And that brings us to the language and literature section. This part of the test is all about evaluating how good you are in both Bengali and English, the two key languages of business and culture in Bangladesh. And question 7 here gives us a perfect example. It asks for the Bengali translation of the super famous English phrase, "Let there be light." This is a straight-up test of your ability to switch between the two languages and do it accurately. And what this shows is that the test is looking for way more than just vocabulary. It's testing for nuance. See, an employee has to be able to talk clearly and with empathy to customers in Bengali. But at the same time, they have to understand the very precise, almost legalistic language of contracts that might be written in English. This is a direct test of real-world practical communication skills. All right, so we've deconstructed these different sections. What does it all add up to? Let's start putting the puzzle pieces together and sketch out a profile of the ideal candidate this test is trying to find. When you really boil it all down, the test is looking for this really unique mix of skills, right? You need the quantitative reasoning to handle the money. You need the attention to detail to make sure you get it right. You've got to have that solid grounding in your national knowledge and the bilingual skills to communicate with everyone. And, this is the kicker, you have to do all of it under intense time pressure. So at the end of the day, this test isn't just a series of random disconnected hurdles. It's a holistic assessment. It's designed to paint a complete picture of who you are as a candidate. The bank isn't just looking for someone who's good with numbers. They're looking for a well-rounded, culturally aware, and totally precise communicator. And this brings us to a final thought. We've seen how this one test weaves together everything from national heroes to algebraic word problems. I mean, a successful candidate clearly needs an incredibly diverse set of skills. So that leaves me with a question for you. If you were about to take this test tomorrow, knowing everything you know now, which one of these skills would you focus on first?